G'day, it's Ken from Breathe Better Salt Rooms. Today I'm going to talk about asthma and salt therapy. Now, as you all probably know, asthma is the sudden constriction of the airways. This results from irritations in the upper bronchial area, which can come from an allergic reaction to dust, pollen, dust mites. It can also come from something as simple as an exercise induced, meaning you suddenly get up and do some form of physical activity, and that creates an asthma attack. Sometimes asthma attacks are caused by environmental changes, like something that's as much as a humidity change, temperature change, suddenly becoming cold can cause an asthma attack. So with salt therapy, it's great that it actually breaks up congestion and draws out inflammation. Now, I'll jump back a little bit. Most of you are also familiar with the various medication that's available, like Ventolin, Becotide, Seretide, Flixotide, Symbicort, and even prednisolone. And most of those, apart from prednisolone, is a orally breathed-in medication where the steroids job is to actually land on the membrane wall and stimulate that to open up, and also block the hormonal messages to call for the inflammation. Now, what many asthmatics have found that a lot of times they're not as effective as they had hoped for, simply because the airways being blocked by the inflammation, they've actually got a lining of congestion that's built up. Now, what happens is that when you're breathing in, say, a reliever like Ventolin, most of it loses in the back of the throat, and the rest of it's supposed to land on the membrane wall, but a lot of it lands on congestion. So what salt therapy can do is actually break up all that congestion to allow the steroid to actually land on the membrane walls. Now, that's great as a complementary form of therapy that works hand in hand with the actual prescribed medicine. And that's something I would never tell people to turn off. Always use your medication. Right? Now, what salt therapy can do in the long run is that whilst it breaks up congestion, it will draw out that inflammation and open that airway at a slow and steady pace. But the same process is actually drawing out a lot of those allergens that have been deposited over time. It's also drawing out a lot of those triggers that are causing those asthma attacks. So over time, it will reduce. Salt therapy can reduce the number of attacks and the severity of those rare attacks. But to do that, there's a bit of a time commitment. What we've found is that's effective for salt therapy is to come to salt therapy sessions at least 3 times a week over the course of about 3 months. For kids, we find two months is probably about right, give or take a week or two. For adults, we've found somewhere between 3 and 4 months. For people who've had all their lives, we're talking many decades, 3-4 decades, it will take around about the 4-month mark, give or take a couple of weeks of regular salt therapy, and that's consistently three or 4 times a week over the course of 3 to 4 months. So hope that helps. I'll see you next time. Cheers.